Hello everyone, and welcome to a quick introduction to the poetry of the 16th century. 16th century England witnessed the rise of the Renaissance, that is, a rebirth for learning. It was marked by a growing interest on the part of the scholars in the language and literature of the classical worlds of the Greece and Rome. Originally, the interest in the ancients goes back to the Middle Ages in the scholars' pursuit for Latin studies. But what did happen in the Renaissance was a shift of emphasis of classical studies from the Roman to the Greek. As a result, the predominating vision of life moved more towards the Hellenistic than the Latin studies. In the new Hellenistic spirit, man was seen as a creature capable of perfection to whom anything was possible. However, the Renaissance came to England late in the century and it coincided with the Reformation, a great religious movement against certain abuses in the Roman Catholic Church, ending in the formation of the Protestant Church. The 16th century witnessed numerous changes in both language and literature. Poetry in the Renaissance received a great share of emphasis in the new zeal for learning. Accordingly, there were great things to achieve in the realm of lyric, songs, blank verse, and sonnet. How about types of poetry? Number one, the lyric. It's a poem which expresses the subjective feelings and thoughts of a person. Such kind of poems is usually written for singing. The lyric in all its forms, song, madrigal, and sonnet, was the finest and most typical of the Renaissance poetry. It was employed by the courtly poets of the 16th century, mainly Sir Thomas White, Henry Howard, etc. They borrowed, imitated, and translated from Italian and French poets, as well as from one another. How about forms of lyric poetry? Number one, the song. The 16th century poets wrote their lyrics mainly to be sung with the voice and to the harp, lute, or any musical instrument. So, the 16th century poetry is melodious in general, so that it could be easily sung or put to music. Number two, madrigal, which is a song for several singers, usually without musical instruments. Originally, it was a pastoral song and it became immensely popular in the 16th century. Number three, sonnet. It was the most popular form of the lyric with the Elizabethans. It's a poem of 14 lines with a formal rhyme. It was originally used by the two Italian masters Dante and Petrarch in the 13th century and was reintroduced by Sir Thomas White and Henry Howard. Soon, it became fashionable in Renaissance poetry. The sonnet was used to write love poetry to an idealized woman, and gradually it was used for narrative poetry whose themes were usually pursuing the beloved, losing, finding, and celebrating her beauty. Blank verse. Poetry that has a regular rhythm, usually with 10 syllables and 5 stresses in each line, but which did not rhyme. It was used by the poet dramatists of the Elizabethan age. Predominant themes. Number one, courtly love. In the Renaissance poetry, love was treated as a kind of god to be worshipped and served. The service of love and beloved was deemed to have an educative effect. Thus, poetry expressed the courtly sentiment of the idealized love, the delight and the melancholy of love. The poet is a lover who is totally devoted to his lady. He idealizes her, accepts her rejection, and rebukes lovingly. So poetry was full of the lover's suffering, sighs, and tears. The beloved is usually an arrogant mistress who rules with tyranny over the lover. She is extremely beautiful, and the poet will dwell on her exceptional charm and beauty. Time. It's a very important theme in the poetry of the 16th century. The 16th century poets made a connection between the beauty of the beloved and the contrary effect of time on her beauty. This theme usually takes the form of an argument in which the poet tries to convince his beloved to make use of time and youth before she loses them. This theme is also known as carpe diem, which means seize the moment or seize the day. Of course, another important theme is the effect of time on the poet's personal experience. The 16th century was a period of insecurity and violent political changes. Thus, people in general and poets in particular felt insecure, and this made them divide into two groups. A. Those who choose to live for the moment and enjoy their lives before death. B. Those who risked their lives by attacking openly the political order by using satire or allegory.